recognize my voice.
God knows what kind of sounds are happening.
Hey everyone, welcome back once again. It is your girl, Ayla Mode, and since I've started transitioning, I've actually been receiving a number of questions, and a number of them had been quite similar. So I thought, why not put them all together in case you guys are curious of the answers and give everyone access to those. So one of the most common questions that I've actually received is how I chose my current name. And there's no real simple answer, but I'm actually a very sensitive person in a number of ways. When I was younger, yellow rooms used to give me extreme anxiety. To this day, I have very sensitive issues with textures. Velvet really kind of off-puts me and makes me feel like I'm on fire, and other textures can really make me feel like I'm being electrocuted. It's very uncomfortable. Regardless, I decided to kind of explore how I felt my being was phonetically. And through exploring sounds, Ayla kept occurring, and I thought, why not look into that? Ayla, looking further into it, in Turkish meant aura of the moon, and in Jewish meant oak tree, and I really kind of liked the juxtaposition there and thought it was really fitting. So Ayla it was. Another question I have been asked recently was, what would I tell my 16-year-old self? And the truth is that I actually talk to my 16-year-old self, or younger forms of myself, all the time. I am constantly going back trying to remind my younger self, especially in some particular moments that I experienced trauma or difficulty, and try to remind myself, to be forgiving and compassionate, because either I didn't understand the full story or sometimes, or I was only doing the best with the resources I had at the moment, and other times I was just going through really unfair, traumatic crap that was put on me without any kind of freedom or choice. So I think it's a really important thing to actually go back and revisit younger forms of yourself and try and correct some of those traumas and difficult turmoils that we might be dealing with. Another question that I've received recently is, do you have any film recommendations that you feel most fairly or authentically resonate with your journey, whether they be fiction, non-fiction, or documentary? So just to answer a quick point right off the cuff, there's been a lot of controversy about cis actors playing trans characters, and the truth in the way that I see it is that sometimes society needs ideas to be breached in order to be accepted, and I definitely think that trans issues were part of that. So to have seen cis people play trans characters up until this point, I don't quite have an issue with. That being said, we now understand that this is going on, that there's still a discussion to be said, but that there's tons of incredible and wonderful trans talent out there, and why not give them the rules and parts to be doing this? I mean, hey, I would definitely do it, why not? A large part of trans stories that we currently have right now have still been portrayed by cis people, unfortunately. And one film that I absolutely incredibly relate to is The Danish Girl, which I really think Eddie Redmayne did a beautiful job of portraying Lily Elbe. Just some of those moments that were so soft and tender that I think a lot of cis people tend to really take for granted. Like that holding the silk dress against your skin and thinking, could this be me? And to be putting on the pantyhose for the first time. There was just so many of those beautiful sensual moments that were so well portrayed between Eddie Redmayne and the director, and I personally connected a lot with those tender moments. Another film that's not particularly a trans film is a foreign film called Viva, and it is about a drag queen that is coming into her own and just starting to, find that confidence to be herself when suddenly her sick and father, who's not in full agreement of how she's living, comes into the house and is actually quite ill and needs her to take care of him. And I quite relate to this in having to take care of my mother as she was passing. Not to say that my mother wasn't accepting of who I was, but she was just unaware. I never really got the chance to come out to her while she was still here with us. And having to be stealth around the family, I can kind of relate in a number of ways to the difficulties in doing that while caretaking for someone. So that film I also definitely connected with. Other incredible stories out there that you should definitely look into or check out though are like Tangerine. Tangerine is a fantastic film. Look into the short story or short series Her Story. Absolutely incredible. I would also say check out Sense8 if you haven't. Just remarkable all the way around. Beautiful trans representation and actresses. Definitely worth looking into. The next question I received is, I know you're a Marilyn Manson fan, and I just wanted to ask your opinion about his new album, Heaven Upside Down. Love you. Love you too, boo, you know who you are. And my opinion on Heaven Upside Down is, I think that this is a remarkable album in that it really culminates all the aspects of his work from beginning to present. You can really feel a lot of that aggression and passion that there was back in Antichrist Superstar, yet you can get a lot of those industrial and beautiful elements that came through in Golden Age of Grotesque. Yet it also has some of the pop elements that you could see in Eat Me, Drink Me. Getting to see all that work culminated and pulled together in one album is absolutely remarkable, and I love that Manson has come out of this self-reflective state and back in a way to reflect society onto how it's portraying in being itself. I'm truly enjoying the songs Blood Honey, Saturnalia, and Say 10. The next question I've received for this video is, do you ever feel intimidated or invulnerable in public situations? And if so, how do you deal with that? This one is rather complex because I think that I was really faced with a jarring welcome to womanhood, if you will, that right after announcing and coming out that I was trans, without making actually any transitional steps, I was immediately met with all kinds of creepy messages and people trying to access me through various social media platforms or even multiple profiles. It was a really kind of jarring experience. To further add to that, I've definitely been faced and met with aggression. I've definitely had people impede on my physical space. It's definitely one of those things where I don't think anything could ever prepare any trans woman for what they will be coming into through transition. It is incredibly astounding and heartbreaking to, see how some people treat women, how some people just treat people. As for ways to combat it, at night, I try not to ever go out alone. If I'm going out during the day, I like to stay in very public spaces where hopefully there is enough people in commotion going on that, God forbid anything happened to me, there will be witnesses or people to interfere. Honestly though, some of my experiences I may actually, go to therapy for. I'm incredibly grateful though to have some of the conversations with the remarkably strong women around me through the hashtag #MeToo that recently came around. It's incredibly validating to be able to work through some of those difficult emotions that are far too often cliche. like shame and guilt, it's definitely difficult, and victims do not deserve to go through that. So as I had mentioned before about my topless photo on Facebook, this question is pertaining to that, and it says, how does it make you feel posting a topless photo after your change, and does it feel more sexualized? And the answer is yes. It's definitely a little more insecure for me to be posting something like that, because there was never ever a second thought given to being topless before transition. But since transitioning, it's definitely a very awkward experience, because I know that, you know, some people are looking at it that way. Some people straight up just came and told me after posting the photo that it made them rather uncomfortable. And despite my want to try and share it and say, look, this shouldn't be sexualized, there is no difference between me being topless before and after, except the fact that there's a little more fat behind my nips. But apparently that's a big deal for some people, and they just can't separate the idea of sexualization around that. So yeah, it's definitely an awkward thing. That being said, I'm still glad I did that, and I still try and see it as a personal win. My last question today is, how is it living with an all-female household? And honestly, it has been remarkable. I am so grateful to be living with such respectful women who, you know, really provide me a sense of sisterhood. It's a great source of getting to learn, you know, how to do my makeup, getting to learn how to do my hair. I love coming home from work and, you know, gossiping and chatting, and I used to get a lot of that in my childhood, and I was very close with a lot of females when I was younger. But sadly, as you know, you mature in age, those kind of break apart, especially because I was perceived and presenting male at the time, and you know, things like sleepovers start happening, and it creates bonding experiences that you just end up missing out on. And I am so grateful to be having the moments where I find sisterhood in my current life now. Well, those are all the questions that I've received up to now, and I hope I can do a few more of these in the future. So please feel free to keep sending in your questions if you have anything for me, whether it's about ideas, my transition, my art, which I'm hopefully going to be sharing a lot more of in the future. Until next time though, remember to keep your pencil sharp and your mind sharper. Ciao!